Okay, so thank you, Ludwig. And again, thank you so much to the Open Access Week of the Czech Universities. I'm, like Richard, very honoured to be giving this presentation to you. Also, a big thank you to Richard. That was a wonderful presentation. Sort of hopefully set me up nicely for my slides ahead. I'm Charlotte Van Rooyen, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Director for EDP Sciences. And I'm going to speak for sort of 25 minutes, I hope, on S2O and why that's part of EDP Sciences' strategy to transition our entire portfolio of journals to open access. Let me make sure I can. Okay. So I'm going to give a quick an overview, which will be a little bit about who we are. I'm going to talk about which of our journals are under the Subscribe to Open model. They are Astronomy and Astrophysics, our flagship journal, our portfolio of mathematics titles. I'm going to talk a little bit about transparency and our usage story, and then finish off with what has worked well and what hasn't. So EDP Sciences traces our roots back a century ago. It was established by eminent figures within the French academic community. Among them were luminaries like Marie Curie, whose groundbreaking contributions to radioactivity earned her 2 Nobel Prizes, Paul Langevin, a distinguished physicist who renowned for his work in quantum mechanics, and Louis de Broglie, the visionary physicist who introduced the concept of wave-particle duality. I'm not a scientist, so as you can see, I just read that from the archives. Today, we've evolved into an academic publisher, the largest in France, and we publish across a diverse array of STM disciplines with a comprehensive portfolio, which includes journals, conference proceedings, books, and a few magazines. And beyond the present, with our digital archives, we find articles authored by globally renowned scientists, including many Nobel laureates like Marie Curie, Ernest Rutherford, Max Planck, Henri Becquerel, and more recent academics such as Serge Haroche. At EDP, we're all about collaboration. In fact, 60% of our journals are the result of a fruitful partnership with learned societies. These partnerships reflect our commitment to a collaborative approach that benefits the academic community. EDP Science is firmly committed to open science. In the same terms, we're actively working towards making all our content completely open access in the coming years, of which S2O is part of that plan. It's not just a big idea. We really are working towards ensuring open science becomes a reality. We're also passionate about equipping the next generation of researchers with the tools they need. EDP Sciences partners with important institutions to organise masterclasses. These are sessions giving early career researchers a solid grasp of the scholarly publishing landscape and teaching them things such as peer review and scientific writing techniques. So thankfully, Richard has given us a wonderful summary of Subscribe to Open, so I don't really need to do this. So just in 4 bullets, sort of the important points I see, that it's a collaborative model and simple and straightforward, using subscriptions that convert content to open access. This is applicable globally and across all disciplines. There are no article processing charges for authors, which encourages a diverse and inclusive environment. And as I said, it's simple. Institutional customers just continue to subscribe to the journals that their patrons value. With sufficient support, content becomes open access under Creative Commons. Otherwise, subscription barriers stay. Our journals that are under Subscribe to Open. We started the program in 2020 with our journal Mathematical Modelling and Numerical Processes, one of our mathematics titles. And in 2021, the rest of the mathematics portfolio joined. These are journals published on behalf of SMI, that's the Société de Mathématiques Appliquées and Industrielles. They were very strongly in favor of this model. In 2022, Astronomy and Astrophysics, our flagship journal, joined the program. And in 2023, Radio Protection joined. And in answer to Richard's question, in fact, all of the journals, apart from Radio Protection, are continuing to publish in open access. But unfortunately, Radio Protection didn't achieve the financial thresholds to convert. But we will continue to make the offer for next year. So I'm just going to talk to you for a little while about Astronomy and Astrophysics. As I said, it is our flagship journal. It is one of the leading journals publishing peer-reviewed original research in astronomy and astrophysics, as compared to the Annual Review of Astronomy, which is review articles. It's a community journal. It's governed by a board of directors made up of representatives from 27 member countries, which includes the Czech Republic. And that's important, which I'll explain shortly. They own the journal, and it's administered by the European Southern Observatory, ESO. We're particularly well known for publication of very important special issues for missions like Gaia, Rosetta, Solar Orbiter, and LOFAR. Again, I have wonderful news in the fact that Uta, who's coming after me, is going to give you a much better background into the open access landscape in astronomy. So in fact, I had about 3 or 4 slides here, but I've actually been able to delete them because Uta's coming next. So my key points are that within astronomy, there are 4 key journals who publish 35% of the refereed original research articles. Their governance is by learned societies, but they're published by, and I put quotes around this because I don't know quite what to say about publishers. So I would say OUP and EDP are certainly not commercial publishers, but published by publishers. There's prevalent use of green open access within this community. And the core journals now have transitioned or are transitioning to full open access using an APC model, i.e. gold open access, except for ANA. As I said, Uta will give you more insights into this. So why did we choose Subscribe to Open for ANA? Well, there was a strong commitment to full open access for the journal from the board of directors and from EDP. We believe that open access through a gold route was not acceptable in the astronomy community. So we had to look at models that didn't use APCs as a way of making this possible. And by this time, we had experience with our mathematics journals. So now I come on to the most complicated part. Oops, I've just gone back. Well, I'll come back to the most complicated part of the ANA Subscribe to Open model, and that's its financial model. We have different streams of revenue that allow ANA to undertake its activities. And we have revenue that's collected by EDP Sciences, the publisher, and we have revenue collected by ANA themselves. EDP collects the library subscriptions, and we collect the money made from our transformative agreements, our read and publish agreements. And prior to when we went to Subscribe to Open, we collected APCs for those articles that were being published in open access under a gold model. This revenue that we collect covers our publishing costs. So the submission system, the publication platform, production, copy editing, typesetting, and marketing. Then the revenue collected by ANA includes the member contributions from those 27 member countries, and then page charges for non-ANA members. So this is the sticking point, is that we do still charge page charges for non-ANA members. Now, this is why it's good news for the Czech libraries, because Czech Republic is a ANA member, and therefore your authors will not be paying any page charges to publish in ANA. These cover editorial costs. So that's their editorial office, extensive language editing, fees for the editors, and then educational initiatives that ANA undertakes, such as scientific writing schools for young astronomers. All of these costs together means that we are able to achieve things like keeping our subscription rate as low as possible. So, for example, we are nearly a quarter of the price of our main competitor, monthly notices from the Royal Astronomical Society. And so by having all of these different revenue sources, we're able to keep our subscription price low. And we also, too, have had flat pricing. In fact, for 5 years, ANA's price did not increase. And we had our first small increase of 3% in 2022 after, well, there was the COVID years, but even prior to that, we had flat pricing. So I hope that explains somewhat the reason why we have sort of a slightly different take on the S2O model, as we do still have these page charges. We are also working very closely with the board of ANA to try and look at all different ways of how we can make this entirely inclusive going forward. So just looking very briefly at the ANA S2O cycle, actually this applies not just to ANA, but to all of our journals. So we made the decision to publish Subscribe to Open in 2001. We then began the subscription renewal campaign for 22 and onwards. So this would happen year on year. The subscription renewal campaigns start in around August and carry on until probably the end of January. Over this time, we evaluate the subscription renewals, and if the decision is then reached to whether to publish in open access, or the target is not reached and the journal to remain in gated access. This normally happens around the end of January. Luckily for all of the journals, apart from Radio Protection, we've been able to maintain publishing in open access at this point. For ANA, the year we moved to open access under S2O was in 2022. The articles that were newly accepted from the 4th of April 2022, we took it to the 4th of April because the revenue targets weren't quite reached at the end of our normal sort of evaluation target. We were so close that we kept open the window for another month or two. And luckily, at the end of March, we reached our financial thresholds. And so from that point, all the articles were published in open access, but articles from the beginning of the year were in free access. This is difficult because a number of publishers will go back and retrospectively turn those articles into open access. But if I say that we had over 800 articles published in those first 3 months, just from a resource perspective, it was really an almost impossible task to do that. The archives for ANA are in free access anyway, but for mathematics, we give the archives of the journals, they remain gated and are open for subscribers as a subscriber benefit. So talking about how we reward subscribers, back in March 2022, we ran a survey to our subscribers asking for those things that those subscriber benefits that might make it more or less likely that they would subscribe, and not unsurprisingly, sort of anything to do with pricing, so discounts on subscription prices, discounts on page charges came out very highly, as well as transparency. So in 2022 and carrying on into 23, we have a number of subscriber benefits. So we have an early bird price freeze. So anybody who subscribes to ANA before the end of the year will have the price fixed at the current year's rate. So for this year, there will be a small subscription price increase for 2024, but if you subscribe before the end of 23, the price remains the same as for 2023. We also reserve content for subscribers only. So the forthcoming articles, this is similar to the annual reviews model. And also we have spoken with the board of directors and agreed a page charge discount for authors coming from the subscribing institutions from non-member countries. As I say, this is something that is continually under review. So moving on to talk a little bit about our mathematics journals. So YS2O for the maths journals, very similarly to ANA, there was a strong commitment to have full open access for all of the journals. And EDP and SMI, our partner societies, strongly believe that open access through a gold route was not acceptable to the mathematics community for so very similar reasons that for ANA. So just running through the timeline, we launched the Subscribe to Open pilot in 2020, featuring the journal Mathematical Modelling of Natural Phenomena. And this initial phase was actually a really quite small subscriber base to see how successful we might be. The pilot was successful, and then so we expanded in 21 to encompass all 5 of the additional mathematics journals. And despite all challenges which have been posed by the pandemic, all 6 journals have been consistently published in open access since that year. Like ANA, we have a number of different revenue sources for the mathematics journals. We have our traditional subscriptions, and we are happy that we've had positive renewal rates in 2023. And we have included some moderate subscription price increases. We've started a 3-year agreement with Knowledge Unlatched in between 2022, which was to end in 24, and we've just extended that to 2027. Their focus will be to sell the package of 6 mathematics journals to institutions. So subscribers committing to a package deal maintain price stability over those 3 years. So our sales force will do individual subscriptions, and Knowledge Unlatched do the package subscriptions. We also have a national agreement with France, which is a transformative read and publish agreement. And when we renegotiated that for this year, Subscribe to Open played a significant role. We've had immense support from the institutions within France for Subscribe to Open, so they have come right behind the model. There's some additional revenue sources. Now, these are not to cover any shortfall in subscriptions, but actually more for sort of publication costs, marketing efforts, and sales and communications activities, these kinds of things. So through the help of our society SMI, we got some donations from the French mathematics laboratories, and the FNSO, the Fonds National pour Sciences Ouvertes, gave us some funding again towards for our helping with publication costs and marketing efforts. All of this is to support our continued to support continued publishing in open access, as well as CNRS also funding for continued open access, again to help towards publication costs and sales and marketing costs. We have strong program governance. So for mathematics, our advisory committee oversees the Subscribe to Open initiative, really exploring all ways to ensure that we keep a long-term transition to open access through Subscribe to Open, explores different funding options, and also we use them to consult on transparency and accountability. The committee is made up of major organisations that represent sort of the key players in mathematics publishing and open access in France. Finally, as Richard talked very eloquently about, is the Subscribe to Open community of practice. We actively participate in this amazing community, which is just, I've worked in publishing for more years than I care to remember, and I don't think I've ever come across a community of that combines authors and publishers and librarians and funders, and every element of the publishing ecosystem is represented, and the openness and transparency that comes out of these meetings is quite extraordinary. So they have really helped us to to help develop our program going forward. Again, just to briefly talk on transparency, like Richard was speaking about, transparency is very important. It came out not only in the survey that we ran, but also in a survey that the community of practice ran. The librarians really want transparency. So we sort of pinned our colours to the flag, if you like. And every year we produce transparency reports talking about our programs for both mathematics and for A&A. These reports cover the sort of the main definitions within Subscribe to Open. It covers our subscription prices, our information on our renewals, all of the information about the exceptional revenue we've received, revenue versus costs, and also about our program governance. Those reports are on our website, and if anybody wants me to send them, please do email me after this. So usage, this is an interesting one. So this is usage for A&A and for our mathematics journals. Yes, it's definitely rising, but we're not getting the amazing figures that Richard talked about, and also some of the other publishers within the community of practice are also seeing the most immense increase in usage. So what are we putting this down to? We believe it's because of the universal use of archive in the mathematics and astrophysics communities. Researchers may already have read the full articles as preprints in archive before publication in a journal. I mean, perhaps publication in the journal is just serving to provide the quality seal and the final publication details by which an article can be cited. So we're putting it down to that. For A&A also, we've always had a very short embargo period, which has been 1 year post-publication prior to the transition to open access. So in effect, really, there was only ever 1 year's worth of embargoed content available. So maybe that has something to do with it as well. We continue to monitor it and we'll continue to report on it. But what is really good news is that since 2020, over 4,600 articles have been published in open access since 2020. So I think that takes us, I think actually, if you look at the slide that Richard shows, I think we're nearly half of those articles. But I think that's because A&A publishes many, many articles. So A&A is obviously a large proportion of that. So those figures were for the end of September 23. So I think that's wonderful that, you know, in those years we're approaching 5,000 articles that are fully open access because of Subscribe to Open. So my final slide, what we think has worked well. The society researcher, and I should have said librarian engagement in the S2O model, again, echoing Richard, the librarian support has been absolutely phenomenal. And their engagement with us has been extraordinary, unlike anything I've ever experienced in my career. Additionally, our multi-stakeholder advisory committee has also been extremely useful and really helpful in helping us to sort of monitor and to advise us. Our financial transparency reports have been very well welcomed by the community. Subscriber benefits are proving to be very positive and helpful. And having varied funding sources helps us to ensure that we can try and keep our subscription prices down while being able to continue to publish in open access. And I feel that the communication that we're doing has worked well. What's not been working so well for us is we have had a few problems maintaining subscriptions outside the EU and the US. I think that's possibly because the model is not quite so well understood there, but we are certainly finding that as time goes on, that understanding is greater. So we're hoping that this will be a short-term thing. And also, we have a really complex funding model for A&A, which involves subscriptions and page charges, and that has been quite difficult to communicate. And I hope that you understood it. So I think on that, that's my final slide, and thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions now.